Somebody was just telling me the struggle they face being from another country when they were trying to get a job. Oh, it's a tough trigger for me because I wish it was that easy. If I was from another country, I'd probably have gotten a bunch of jobs from people that might be from that same country, especially if it's one of the countries that are, you know, in a lot of the industries here, restaurants or hotels or taxis or whatever. Except that when you hire people, like the trend now, right? And it's even worse since COVID, but don't blame it on COVID, it was happening already. Is people like to hire people that they identify with that are like themselves. And that includes people that work in industries with systemic issues. So they hire people like them that help manifest such systemic issues. But when you're the Homo sapien living among the Homo communia, and you live by human standards and your work ethics reflect this, is people feel extremely alienated. I mean, sometimes I almost get a job and they say next interview, give us these domesticated answers. And people, they just don't get it. They don't get what learner-centered means, or patient-centered, or patron-centered, or customer-centered. They don't get it. So yeah, it's a bit of a trigger, because I'd like just a part-time job. I'd be a millionaire because I'm not a big spender. And I'm willing to lower my career standards in the sense that I would just be a driver, or just be a tutor. Except that if I'm a tutor, you're getting my counseling skills, my mental health skills, my life skills, my critical thinking skills, my learning specialist skills. Still, it's just one little thing, and it's kind of weird. Again, you gotta wonder how this happens. It could be no conspiracies at all, since I put the school district in their place for offering me the exact job I said in a job interview not to offer me, because I'm tired of broken hearts where I see kids cry when I'm finished working with them and their regular workers come back because they experience an Homo sapien working with them, right? Please don't do this. I say either acknowledge me for my specialties and put me on a probation period for that and observe and learn, but don't start me with this. And it's the only thing that happens. So when that person said that, I said, well, I worked for an English school district in Quebec one time. And the French class, the teacher said I told the school district 2 weeks in advance I had to be gone for a couple hours for this medical appointment. And they send somebody that has no French skills, and I had to explain what was written on the piece of paper in French for her instructions. Because that person had seniority for being called as a spare, right? How's that learner-centered? How are unions not in big part responsible for the lack of adequate patient care, or don't put a sign on your school, every child matters, if there's unions protecting workers, which they don't do a good job at. But still, it's abusive to the children. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, one thing I was thinking about, if I get accepted in a PhD, and at one point I want to use the term, of course I will, of course I have no choice to use this term, because I'll be covering such topics as naming our species, and I will say Homo communia. And they'll say, what? It's Homo sapiens. And then they say, well, can you cite this? Okay, I'm citing myself, because I think I only once or two other people short, once maybe, mentioned that term, and they didn't write it in italics in the right way, as if they were describing a species, like I do. So in a way, I'm the first. But I also really defined it well, what I mean by using that, and verified it with data, right? That it's the generic people primates of this epoch. And please don't assume they're sentient or sapient, because, well, just watch the news for that, and then get the news to cite for you if you don't believe that that's how we act. So in a way, I'd be in a confrontation right away with the first time I mentioned this. And then I would say, well, if you want, you can contact one of the other people that use that term, and I think I might have possibly a peer to ask me relevant questions in a thesis defense, right? So, these kind of things would likely happen. And it's up to me to walk around eggshells around you, either as elites or non-elites with jobs. So again, it's easy to get triggered for me sometimes when people think, oh, you're lucky, you're a white guy from Canada, and if you speak English or French here. And I say, well, I speak both fluently in ways that people that speak only one of them languages is not that efficient, especially if you incorporate reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Because when you're thinking of listening in English or French, you're also thinking of a person's working memory, their attention span, their ability to not make assumptions, their ability to ask a clarifying question. All these things, you put them all together. Yeah, there's not a lot. I'm probably in the top 2% of the best bilingual person in Canada. Now, does that mean I should be hired as a translator? Because I'm also a culture repair? No, of course. But if people help me get a job as a taxi driver or a spare teacher's assistant in class, they think they've done me a favor and I've slapped them in the face. Even though before they help me, I say, this is who I am. If you think you can help me get a job as who I am, great. And you got to start from the bottom. Yeah, okay. Yeah, at 55 years old, when I already exceed everybody's skill sets that I'll be working around, is you want me to believe you don't have mental illness by saying something like this, or you care about the kids and you're about to retire.